It's time for Speed77 Radio's Motorsports Madness, powered by the staff at Race Chaser Online. Today's racing news, yesterday's racing history, and now here are your hosts, Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and Kyle Magda.
You know, I think in the 5 minutes leading up to tonight's show, I've learned exactly why we call this the madness, because this group at the round table tonight's already gotten crazy. But good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Performance Motorsports Network. I'm Jacob Seelman. Alongside me, my right-hand cohort partner in crime, how many ever names I can call him over the course of a night, Tom Baker joining me, along with Kyle Magda and James Pike, as we get set to rock and roll through 2 hours or so of motorsports news. And Tom, I don't know whether to get out the straitjacket or what with you so far today, but you know, if I think you've gone off your rocker, the whole motorsports world, I think in the last 2 or 3 hours has completely gone off the deep end. I mean, seriously, breaking news this, breaking news that. It's been a wild afternoon. I didn't expect this on a Monday.
See what happens when I leave the office for a couple of hours? It just all goes off its axis.
Yeah, it all goes off its axis, and we're going to talk a lot about that over the course of the show tonight, but good grief. Somebody who's not off their axis is the guy who basically cleaned house this weekend out on the West Coast, because some Kyle Magda guy that's sitting over on the other side of the table from me is looking all smug and smiling and licking his chops, because not only did he successfully pick Kevin Harvick to win the race this weekend, he also took the Race Chaser fantasy points lead away from everybody else at the party, too. So I have 2 reasons to glare some daggers at him tonight.
Well, thank you, guys. I will take that victory yesterday. So, but yeah, you know, it's a really good race yesterday. It was between the 4 and the 48 yesterday. Those two, they were just in a league of their own. And actually, Austin Dillon was one of my picks, even though I did take Chase Elliott. But Austin Dillon was my backup pick, so it helped me for fantasy a little bit there. But overall, a good weekend for Chevrolet. Austin Dillon, of course, winning the Xfinity race barely. And Kevin Harvick winning yesterday, both who are or were former Richard Childress Racing drivers. So really interesting to see. And actually, Kevin was in the Xfinity Series broadcast booth on Saturday, so you had the winner in there as well. So yeah, and of course with Phoenix coming up, just a lot. That team has just been on a roll. Six straight finishes of finishing first or second, just unbelievable right now.
Yeah, James, you don't think Kevin learned a little bit of something watching those guys play on Saturday that he was able to take to that freaky fast Jimmy John's Chevrolet on Sunday afternoon, do you?
You know, I'm not entirely certain that he did or didn't. And thank you for giving me the chance to come back on again, live from the proper headquarters, shall we speak, a little bit up north in the lovely land of the Trefo. But at any rate, yeah, at this point, you know, I wonder if this is more just a really good run of form on Harvick's part, or if it's just that the combination of people on that Ford team at Stewart-Haas are just that much better than everybody else at Stewart-Haas, or if he just gets all the best equipment from Stewart-Haas or something, because at this point, it's got me wondering why on earth the other 3 Stewart-Haas cars aren't running as well as Harvick. Maybe I'm crazy to think that, but I don't know, just something that popped into my head over the afternoon prepping for the show.
Well, I think you have to look at a couple of things here, and you look at it on an individual basis, case-by-case basis here. First of all, Danica Patrick is not running as well as Kevin Harvick because, well, Danica is not Kevin Harvick. Tony Stewart is not running like Kevin Harvick because I think a lot of that has to do with Tony, you know, having missed the time that he did and still really trying to kind of get caught back up to some degree. And we have to kind of throw a little bit of a wild card in with Tony as well, or let's call it an incomplete so far, because he did have that crash at Daytona and he had good speed in the car there. So we don't know what would have happened there, but certainly the last 2 weeks haven't been fantastic for him by any stretch. And the 41 car obviously gets an incomplete because Kurt Busch is not driving it. And I don't care who you substitute in, you know, it's going to take them a little while to get in sync with what's going on. And while Regan Smith certainly hasn't performed poorly, I mean, he's been just outside the top 10 or 12 in each race that he's run. It's just not the same as having the guy in it that's used to working it. So I don't really think you can make any kind of a conclusion other than Kevin Harvick has Tony Stewart's championship winning crew. And they won him another title last year. And, Kevin is just running like a bear. He's got the golden horseshoe right now. Had the problem at Daytona with what was the motor there, but then came right back in the 500 and in Atlanta and at, of course, won Vegas. So, honestly, Jacob, I don't know that it's as much that you can make a case for what's wrong with the other three cars. I think it's more just about the fact that the 4 car is freaky fast right now, and they're on a momentum roll.
They are on a momentum roll, and just to supplement everything we talked about with some numbers, because as we know, I am Stat Boy, and Stat Boy roars every once in a while. The average finish for the last 3 races of last year and the first 3 races of this year for that 4 car, 1.5, 3 second-place finishes, and 3 victories for Kevin Harvick in the last 6 races. That's a streak of top 2 finishes that was last accomplished by Jeff Gordon in 1996. So it's been a long time since we've had a streak of that much consistency. Then you look at these guys here. The rest of the SHR camp, like you said, Tom, we really can't make a case for what's wrong with them per se, but we can make a case that they're definitely not Kevin Harvick. The average finish for that 41 car between Kurt Busch's 3 races at the end of last year and Regan Smith's 3 races so far this year, 12.5. Danica Patrick's average finish over that 6-race span, 23.3. Tony Stewart's average finish in one that's really going to stick a needle right into James's heart, 29.8 for the 14 car over the last 6 Sprint Cup races, which by Tony's standards is absolutely abysmal, because it is. I mean, you don't see the 3-time champion running that poorly for the most part. But another guy that's running poorly, James Pike, I just stabbed you in the heart. Now I'll go to you to make you talk. 3 races into the year last year, Jeff Gordon was 5th in points. Coming in 3 races this year, Jeff Gordon is 30th in points. Is this the point where the 24 team hits the big red panic button yet?
I don't know, though. I will go back and correct you just a bit. The last time we saw a run of form equivalent to Harvick's was incidentally from Tony himself when he made that run to the title in 2011, the last 4 races of that season.
I said 6 races, James. It's 6 straight.
Whatever. But runs of form like that don't happen often. Okay, that's the point of that. But regardless, I think with Jed's case, it's really just a matter of bad luck. Daytona, he kind of got shuffled into the back, and when you get shuffled anywhere near 20th, you're bound to get caught up in anything that happens in the final 10 laps. And then the wrecks that he's had at both Atlanta and Las Vegas weren't really of his own doing. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. That being said, it's not like the speed hasn't been there. He may or may not have won the pole this weekend. So, it's not like he's slow. It's just you got to get him in clean air for a little bit and just catch a breather. I wonder if Phoenix might not be a terrible place for him to get that air that he needs to run as fast as he has been and actually get the finishes to show for it.
Jeff's solid at Phoenix, I'll give him that, but he's no Kevin Harvick, Tom, and James mentioned the words momentum roll. Actually, you and James both mentioned the words momentum roll. Kevin Harvick has won at Las Vegas now for the first time. We're going to Phoenix, where he's won 6 times over the course of his career. He's won 4 times in a truck, and he's won 4 out of the last 5 Sprint Cup races there, including the last 3 consecutive. If I were the rest of the field, I don't even know that I would bother going to Phoenix if that 4 car even gets in the garage area. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, I think we would have thought, even looking at Jeff Gordon, I think we would have assumed that he would be running for the win at all 3 of these tracks we've just been to, and we can all see what happens when Lady Luck turns sour. So while you certainly list Kevin Harvick as the favorite going into this race, you still have to run the race. And Phoenix is a track. I mean, Kyle Busch has been the other driver that has really had a good foothold on this track lately. But of course, he's not entered this weekend. So that leaves it wide open for Harvick. But don't forget, Jimmy Johnson's been strong there. Denny Hamlin's not been too bad there, I don't recall. Gordon's definitely good there. So this is going to be an interesting weekend, I think. We're off the 1.5 miles. Phoenix is a different kind of a racetrack. So far, the racing itself, for the most part, I don't think it's really been all that great in these last 2 races, for the most part. Not the passing for the lead, not the racing for the lead. I would have liked to have seen. Phoenix might change that. Again, different kind of a racetrack, but certainly Harvick would have to be the favorite. I'm just not ready to hand him the checker before they throw the green.
If Harvick gets out front at Phoenix, the only way he is going to lose that race is by a caution. And oh, by the way, Kyle Busch, a 7-time winner in the Xfinity Series at Phoenix. But as you mentioned, Tom, because of the injury, he is not entered for this weekend's Xfinity race. So there's a good chance that we could see somebody new finally visit victory lane in the desert, at least for the Xfinity race on Saturday. And I don't know, Regan Smith, he's got the race's title sponsor on the side of his car for this
Kevin
weekend.
Harvick's in it
I know.
too.
Oh, boy. Don't remind me, Magda. But we'll talk more NASCAR in just a moment because there's still a lot of news and other things to catch up on. Right now, you're listening to Motorsports Madness on the Performance Motorsports Network.
How would you like to win a brand new Corvette? Larry O's got all the details.
In the Pits Media is proud to present its newest partner, WinYourNewCar.com. That's right, you now can enter the #1 American Dream Car Contest giveaway at WinYourNewCar.com. Complete the puzzle the fastest and win a new Corvette tax-free, delivered to your door. Come on, stop dreaming, start driving with WinYourNewCar.com.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hands can do incredible things. They made every sound in this piece of music. But nothing compares to using them to help save a life. If an adult suddenly collapses, call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of their chest until help arrives. It's called hands-only CPR, and it's recommended by the American Heart Association. Visit handsonlycpr.org today. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Car problems? You can trust your local Cotman man. Cotman has a 40-year history as a leader in car repair and making happy, satisfied customers. Whatever's wrong with your car, SUV, or truck, Cotman will check it out free using state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment. Don't take chances with your car. Bring it to Cotman and let your local Cotman man show you why they are America's transmission and total auto care experts. Visit Cotman.com to download money-saving coupons. Cotman. Real service, real fast.
You know that phone call is going to come at the worst possible time, right at the end of the game. Fourth quarter, fourth down, and 1 yard to go. They're piling up, but you can't watch that. You got to get that car off the road. This could have been prevented if you have taken advantage of Cotman's free TransCheck 21. Here's a chance to have us look at your car and head off any problems that could happen that could interrupt that game. Again, it's a free check. Come see us.
See Leonard and the fine folks at Cotman of Manassas, 9113 Mathis Avenue in Manassas. Give them a call at 703-365-7200.
All I wanted to do was just pick up a guitar and sing praise songs.
From IamSecond.com.
Well, when I got to 17, I was playing in after-hours bars, just in a bunch of trouble.
Grammy Award winner Michael W. Smith.
Smoking that first joint and feeling so guilty about it. From there, it was LSD, and your compass sort of just like disappeared. I knew where I belonged. I just couldn't get out. I was very depressed. I went on the floor and just began to shake. And I was just weeping. I was weeping. And I just began to just cry out for God. 12:30 at night, on the linoleum floor of my kitchen, the God of the universe, came and wept with me on that floor. I know where my hope lies. It's not being a rock star. I'm a son of the High King of the universe.
Watch Michael's story at IamSecond.com.
You're listening to Speed77 Radio on the Performance Motorsports Network. Now back to Jacob, Tom, and Kyle on Motorsports Madness.
+1 because James Pike is at the round table as well. Welcome back to the Madness. I'm Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda, James Pike, all here talking motorsports. We'll have a rotating cast later on in the show, but talking Phoenix, wrapping up Las Vegas. And, we talked about how good Kevin Harvick was, Tom, before the break. And now coming out of that, if Kevin Harvick was good on Sunday afternoon, Austin Dillon was just monstrous during the Xfinity Series race. It's been 3 years since he had won something in NASCAR's second-tier division, and it didn't look like it on Saturday. He had the field just completely under his foot, and once he took the lead, he was gone every single time. He basically only gave it up during pit stops. I mean, it was a masterful performance by that Ream machine.
Yeah, the field surely did get reamed, didn't they? That was just that was an amazing drive. I mean, there was just there was nobody really competitive with Austin all day per se until the very end, and
yeah.
Ryan Blaney certainly proved that he was the wheel man. I mean, I think we learned two things about Ryan Blaney in case you didn't know. Before, we learned two things on Saturday about Ryan Blaney. Number one, he never quits. Number two, he can drive the wheels off a race car because he had that thing every which way but straight more than once, hung on to it, still closed the gap, and really probably had a chance to send Austin Dillon for a ride when Austin threw a close block there, driving him down onto the apron. But Ryan did the right thing, the sportsmanlike thing. And, he settled for second, but that move Austin made, that close block, hard block, was what won him the race because it, stopped Ryan's momentum just enough to allow him to not be able to close back in time for the run to the finish line. But boy, Austin just was amazing. That was an incredible run. The best, obviously, I've seen from him, and it may be the best ever race he's run in NASCAR's Big Three Series. Of all the ones he's won, I think that was easily the most dominant.
Oh, no, it wasn't. And I'm going to pull out my trusty stat book again in just a minute. I gotta get it loaded up because both of his wins at Kentucky were absolutely ridiculous in 2012, the year before he won the Xfinity Championship. So I'll get to looking on that. But James Pike, I'll go to you first because did we respect Ryan more for not doing what he could have and probably nobody would have blamed him for doing and sticking the nose in there a half an inch deeper when Austin threw the Joey Logano versus Tony Stewart block? I equated it to Sunday morning. Do we respect Ryan more for the fact that he didn't just stick the nose in there and send Austin into the safer barrier?
Well, I don't necessarily look at it at that light. I think more of at the end of the day, that goes back to Roger Penske and the Penske way of doing things. Because I have a feeling that Roger wouldn't have necessarily been happy had Ryan pulled something like that. But Ryan's also not the kind of guy to do that kind of thing, which I think is also why Blaney's part of the Penske ecosystem in the first place. So there are some teams, I think, and some drivers that will go out and do that. Ryan's never struck me as one of those guys. Penske's never struck me as one of those organizations. So I think it's a whole top to bottom thing. And I guess, you can respect him more, but I don't necessarily know if it was even a thought that crossed his mind, to be honest.
Fair enough. And Kyle Magda, I'm gonna steal the rug out from under you here because I know you wanted to pull it, but I pulled it a little bit quicker. And Tom, here's your reference point. All three of his wins in the Xfinity Series for Austin Dillon have come from the pole, two of them at Kentucky. in 2012, and his first win, 192 of 200 laps led. So it's not his most dominant win in NASCAR's National Series. But Kyle, I do think this was the one that was the most impressive of the three, because there were actually a few cars that at different points could race with him a little bit, and he had to keep working back and working back and working back through those green flag pit stop cycles.
Yeah, and every single time, even like you said, when he ran back, he ran him right down. And I think at one point in the race, he had a 6 or 7 second lead, and actually had a perfect weekend, sweeping both Xfinity Series practices Friday, winning the pole on Saturday, and then, of course, going on to win the race and holding off Ryan Blaney. And the first driver to do that since Joey Logano at Kentucky in that series in June 2009. So there's a lot of just that car was hooked up all weekend, and except for that close call in the end and Ryan Blaney with those fresher tires, that could have come into play there at the end. But overall, just a stout performance by that whole entire team. And actually, the second win that Austin Dillon has had with Nick Harrison, also winning a Pocono last August. So having that chemistry with him, and with Nick Harrison working with so many different drivers, really helps him there to get the win.
Yeah, and Tom, the scary thing for the rest of the field, they were that good at Vegas, and they've got 2 more weeks to make it better, because Austin's going to be in the car at Phoenix, and he's going to be in the car at Fontana as well.
Yeah, and it's hard to imagine him not being just as competitive at both of those tracks, to be honest with you. Although Phoenix, you change it up a little bit, because as I think it was Kyle Magda that pointed out earlier, Kevin Harvick is back in the car in the I think the 88 car for that race. Yeah. So you got Harvick, and there are some other guys like Chase Elliott that I think are going to run very well there. A little different type of track. It's not your 1.5 miles. It's a very tight mile, and it drives very much differently. So I would see Austin being very competitive at both tracks, but I don't necessarily see him being able to do at either of the next 2 tracks what he just did at Vegas. But nonetheless, whether it was his most dominant performance or not, I totally agree that it was his most impressive. And I think Austin, it looks like a little bit of a different driver this year. He seems to be more confident, more comfortable. And even in the Cup car, the results haven't necessarily shown it. But, just his communication and the way that he kind of feels about the situation that he's in. He's not a rookie anymore. He understands what's expected of him. I think he feels like he's got the ability. It's just a matter of putting the formula together in the Cup, on the Cup side. And I know they'll get there, but certainly the Xfinity car was just outstanding. I mean, that was a great job.
It was. Yeah, it really, really was. And so we've got Austin Dillon, Kevin Harvick, who take the wins in both Saturday and Sunday races, Tom. But what we also had was something that caught my eye even before the green flag dropped on Saturday, because it happened on Friday before qualifying, which I might add was a whole lot cleaner this week than it was at Daytona or it was at Atlanta, save for one little incident. And I'm curious to see what comes out of NASCAR's mouth, if anything, tomorrow. Because remember that little rule where you can't flare out the fenders on the side skirts anymore? We finally found somebody brave enough to try and go against NASCAR's hand, and guess what? They got slapped, and it happens to be Paul Wolf and Brad Keselowski.
That's right. I do remember you telling me that the other day. I'd forgotten about that. I don't get that. I just, that it's not like you're hiding something. I mean, you can tell by looking at it. So, I don't know what they would be trying to accomplish by that. Almost as if to thumb their nose at the rule and just dare NASCAR to do something. And I can't believe that would be the mentality. That's never been the way Penske operates. But whatever the reasoning was, they got caught, and I think NASCAR put the rule in for a reason. They've got to enforce it, and you've got to, whatever the penalty is for it, that's what it's got to be, period. You can't let somebody get away with attempting to do that. That just seems very silly to me. You can see it as soon as you look at it. It's not like it's something under the hood that maybe NASCAR won't find.
Yeah, I see that, and that's exactly the interesting point to all this. It's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out because, James, obviously they were looking for something, any kind of advantage, and, for the most part, Keselowski was way off at Vegas this weekend. It just seemed like he could never get that car where they liked it on Sunday, and that puzzled me because he was the defending winner of the race, and now he's like way back almost outside the top 20.
Yeah, it was strange to see the fall off from the two that we did from year over year. That was very odd to me. And I guess when you come to the track and you realize that what you've got is that bad, maybe you're that desperate to try and just take something, even though it's very clearly stated in the rule book that you can't do what Keselowski and Paul Wolf and company did. So, I don't know. I don't know if it was a caution thrown to the wind thing or a just, we're going to be terrible, so we might as well at least try thing, or just it was weird, I think is the best way to describe it, really.
Yeah, it was weird, and it will be interesting to see what they're able to do going to Phoenix this weekend. Race 2 of the 3-race Western Swing, we'll call it. I love this. We finally have a bona fide West Coast swing. It's kind of nice. Here, and we'll have to see. Harvick may be in great position to try and sweep the whole thing. I don't know. We'll decide who's going to be good this weekend at Phoenix a little later on in the show. Right now, we're going to shift gears and head to the open wheel side of life, and Joel Sebastianelli going to join us. A major IndyCar signing taking place earlier today, as well as the Australian Grand Prix for them Formula One wine and cheesers coming up this weekend. We'll have all that coming up. You're listening to Motorsports Madness on the Performance Motorsports Network.
How would you like to win a brand new Corvette? Larry O's got all the details.
Enter America's #1 dream car giveaway contest at winyournewcar.com. That's right, winyournewcar.com. Complete the puzzle the fastest and win a new Corvette tax-free delivered to your door. Come on, stop dreaming and start driving with winyournewcar.com.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right, it's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette, it's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit. Make a plan. Be informed. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
On the air, you may know me as the man about motorsports. Actually, I've been the man about insurance for over 30 years. With one call, I can cover your life, health, auto, home, and business insurance. Recently, I saved a young couple over $500 on their annual car insurance bill. No gimmicks and no green lizard. So if you think your insurer is really your good neighbor who is on your side because he is holding your money in his good hands, think again. Call me, 703-631-8000. I have dozens of insurance companies waiting to give you the protection you need and deserve. It may take more than 15 minutes, but you'll receive sound advice, quality professional service, and an honest opinion. That number again, 703-631-8000. Ask for Larry O.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win a Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first. and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He'd guide us to that ultimate victory.
Watch Tony's story at IamSecond.com.
Let's throw the green for Open Wheel Central on Motorsports Madness. Back to Jacob, the crew, and the only racing insider to ever use Snuggies for Dogs in a conversation about IndyCar, Joel Sebastianelli.
Well, I was hoping for wine and cheese, but I guess we've got that at the table for Joel, too, because the racing is back. The racing is back, and I know he's excited about that. So we welcome you guys out there back to Motorsports Madness. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda, along with our resident wine and cheeser. So, Joel, let's get right down to it. You're excited because there's Formula One racing on track this weekend, and that's a good thing for everybody.
Oh, it's going to be so great to finally have some right turns back in the rotation in the racing world and shaping up to be another exciting year, I think. A little bit of an earlier start time this year, with earlier, of course, being a relative term. Race starts at 1 a.m. Eastern time on coverage of all three practice sessions, qualifying, and the race, of course, on NBC Sports Network. So really excited to get Formula One back, and it's starting to be about that time, guys. The most wonderful time of the year. IndyCar is coming back soon. Some big announcements there today. It's a great time for open wheel racing right now.
It's a great time. So let's start with the obvious and take a look a little bit deeper into this, Joel, because obviously the Australian circuit, this is a great track that we get to hit this weekend. I know James is probably listening going, hey, there's V8 supercars too. And of course, we'll get to that a little later in the show. But for you, this track is one that it's kind of gone through phases, I guess. Some years you'll get it where there's a great race in Melbourne, and some races you'll get where it's basically a snooze fest. What are you expecting this year?
Well, I think the first race of the year, especially in this era of F1, there's always the question of reliability going in. Now, Nico Rosberg won the race in 2014 last year, and to some extent, I mean, that was to be expected because we knew more or less going in that Mercedes was going to dominate most of the year. But his teammate Lewis Hamilton suffered an engine failure and finished all the way at the back, did not finish the race. So there's always going to be that question. I think Mercedes and Williams have shown far and away that they are the most reliable teams. As far as some of the other teams on the grid, we don't know what to expect with Red Bull yet. Red Bull is a bit of a mystery. Whether or not they can continue on their form last year, if anything, I think Williams is actually going to be the team that's going to score some victories this season and take some of those leftovers from Mercedes. McLaren is really in dire straits right now, aren't they? They've shown very little reliability at all with any part of the car, driver included, and I don't mean to make light of that situation at all, but with Fernando Alonso, the world champion, out of the car, it's going to be Kevin Magnussen jumping in. Magnussen, of course, did make his way onto the podium in 2014, though, in that race. Showed, I think, maybe his best race ever in F1, I would say, was at Albert Park. So a lot of questions. Ferrari perhaps coming in with a conservative customer unit. We've heard the Scuderia, because of the engine restrictions, down to only 4 this season. They don't want to risk too much by bringing in all of the guns right away, especially from the sounds of it, if they don't think that they can compete for a race victory in the first Grand Prix of the year. So I think the stars are certainly aligning for the 2 stars at Mercedes-AMG Petronas, Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton, to run up front per usual. But outside of that, and maybe even perhaps as far as the top step of the podium, there's always going to be a little bit of doubt at this race. It's a track and a Grand Prix that's prone to throw you a few surprises every now and then.
Yeah, a couple surprises. I hope we can find one on Sunday afternoon, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see, Joel. In the meantime, you mentioned McLaren. I want to go to that now because obviously the talk of the town the last 2 weeks has been Fernando Alonso. First, it was he's in intensive care following a testing crash in Barcelona. Then there were rumors of amnesia, which were later confirmed. Then there were rumors of electric shock and all these other bizarre our theories, and then it comes out that he's not racing in Melbourne this weekend. For starters, there's a lot of fiction out there, and it's hard to dissect the truth from it, but there's also a lot more questions than there are answers, which you hit on in your open wheeling blog on Race Chaser Online last week. Just the fact that, hey, we don't care what's going on. We just really would like a straight ball here.
And we're not getting many of those straight balls, are we? It seems more and more common that whenever a driver is injured, there's always the right to privacy, but then there's a step beyond. And I don't know if there's any sort of deceit or dishonesty going on for McLaren, but it definitely seems as though, if nothing else, they are going to great lengths not to tell the entire truth about it. I just don't think that these leaks that come from other sources do anybody any good. It puts the team under more scrutiny. I don't believe in the saying that no publicity is bad publicity. There is bad publicity, and I don't think it looks good for McLaren, especially if, let's say that this was just a routine concussion, right? Or even if it wasn't, let's say Fernando really is seriously hurt and that's why he's staying out. There's something going on that we don't know about. Hiding it still hurts the team, because now you've got all of these rumors about, did he get shocked? What happened to the car? And that just makes McLaren look bad. So you don't look good by doing this. And I think the concern is definitely with Fernando Alonso. He woke up thinking it was 1995, according to these reports, saying, I'm Fernando Alonso and I want to be an F1 driver. I guess the good news, he got his wish, but the bad news, that's not something you see very often. That's definitely a safety risk.
I'll take the floor for a second here, because I got to agree with Joel. I think it looks terrible for McLaren. And I also think it speaks a lot to the disconnect between F1 and the fans. It's really sad that you have all of these people from all around the world who follow the sport. And Fernando Alonso is certainly one of the top drivers in the sport. And, something happens, and the fans want to know so that they can react to it, offer sympathy, whatever the situation was. And it just was really surprising to me that all this time has passed and we still can't get a straight answer. It only makes me feel like there's something really going on that they just don't want to release until they figure it out. And that's what happens when you don't get the truth right off the bat. You start assuming the worst.
Yeah, and if it is a concussion, there's definitely a part of me clearly it is a concussion, and clearly there was amnesia suffered. Yeah. Let's just say that is all it is. Well, that's not something that you can just shoot to the side. I think regardless of what it is, whether we do know everything at this point or whether it's, whether delving into the rumors, maybe there's more accuracy than there are just misinformation out there right now. We won't know, and I'm not prepared to say that. But let's just say it is the way it is right now, from what we've heard. Then I think it's certainly a good thing to keep him out of this race. First of all, McLaren does not seem like they are in a position, quite frankly, that will be challenging for points, let alone finishing the race right now. So to sit him out, avoid that concussion risk. I remember in 2011, Sergio Perez had a really bad crash in the Sauber in qualifying at Monaco. Yep. And 2 weeks later at the Canadian Grand Prix, popped into the car and said, you know what, I can't do this. He was feeling dizzy, and clearly there were still leftover symptoms 2 weeks later. This is a little bit longer, but I think from a medical standpoint, I can't fault them at all. I just hope that at this point, what we've heard now is the whole truth, because forget the black eye for McLaren. I have no horse in that race. If they want to give themselves a black eye, then by all means go ahead. But I hope for Fernando's sake that it's not worse than it already appears.
Exactly.
And then if it is, there's always going to be that ethical question. I don't know how much you can do about it, but is it really okay to lie about a lie about a driver's condition? There, especially in serious incidents, right? I understand that you really need to honor privacy, and something like Michael Schumacher or Jules Bianchi, bless them both, there's always going to need to be that right to privacy, but there's a difference between that And, for example, what McLaren is doing with Ron Dennis spreading misinformation. The only accurate thing I think he said so far is the quote, "I'm not a doctor." Well, no kidding, Ron. You've done a good job of proving that so far.
Yeah.
So, even in those cases, though, with Bianchi and Schumacher, what percentage of what we know about their condition, even right after it happened, came from leaks that were neither confirmed nor denied? We may not know whether those are accurate, but it's all we have. So naturally, the media fans, they're going to run with it. So I understand that the relationship with fans and drivers, it's one-sided. It's not like a bond that's necessarily shared on each side in some cases, but fans are invested in this sport, and without fans, you've got nothing. And people do genuinely care about their condition. So if for no other reason, just stop treating us like we're idiots or like we can't know. It's like being a little kid when somebody in the family is sick and the older family members don't tell you the whole truth. Just tell us the truth. It's not like a football game where Bill Belichick can lie about Tom Brady being questionable, and it makes sense in a sense because it's gamesmanship. You want the teams to prepare for something else. There's none of that in racing.
No, there's not, Joel, and that's what just makes you sit here, scratch your head, and go, all right, I guess we'll wait and see, but I'm more interested in seeing how quickly Fernando can actually get back as opposed to all the rumors and mess that we've got flying around here. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But Joel, I know on the other side here in a second, you're equally as excited because not only do we have the Australian Grand Prix this weekend, we're 2 weeks out from St. Pete. So that we can be excited about. Right now, we will take a moment, be back right after this. You're listening to Motorsports Madness on the Performance Motorsports Network.
How would you like to win a brand new Corvette? Larry O's got all the details.
WinYourNewCar.com. Enter America's #1 dream car giveaway contest at WinYourNewCar.com. Complete the puzzle the fastest and win a new Corvette tax-free. Come on, stop dreaming, start driving with WinYourNewCar.com.
Car problems? You can trust your local Cotman man. Cotman has a 40-year history as a leader in car repair and making happy, satisfied customers. Whatever's wrong with your car, SUV, or truck, Cotman will check it out free using state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment. Don't take chances with your car. Bring it to Cotman and let your local Cotman man show you why they are America's transmission and total auto care experts. Visit Cotman.com to download money-saving coupons. Cotman. Real service, real fast.
You know that phone call is going to come at the worst possible time, right at the end of the game. Fourth quarter, fourth down, and 1 yard to go. They're piling up, but you can't watch that. You got to get that car off the road. This could have been prevented if you have taken advantage of Cotman's free TransCheck 21. Here's a chance to have us look at your car and head off any problems that could happen that could interrupt that game. Again, it's a free check. Come see us.
See Leonard and the fine folks at Cotman of Manassas, 9113 Mathis Avenue in Manassas. Give them a call at 703-365-7200.
Media sales professionals with agency experience. If you're frustrated with your current position, unrealistic quotas, and inept management, if you're a sales machine and you simply will not take no as an acceptable reply, if you're looking for a rapidly growing company with unlimited sales potential for commissions in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you're searching for a high-tech, forward-looking, laid-back, but extremely professional organization who appreciate your skills and dedication, we have your next opportunity. Scorpion Radio Group is building a sales team of self-starters who are motivated. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444 or email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. That's 717-749-0444 and ask for Sue.
Hi, this is Jens Scott from Summit Point Kart in Summit Point, West Virginia. If you're looking for a real racing experience on a real racetrack, come out to Summit Point Kart this weekend. For as little as $25, you can get your racing career started. New this year, Summit Point Kart offers the RX 250 capable of over 75 miles an hour. We're open every Friday from 5 p.m. till 9 p.m., Saturday from noon till 10 p.m., and Sunday from noon till 9 p.m. For more information, go to our website, summitpointkartwithak.com, or you can call us at 303 404-725-5270. Summit Point Kart, your East Coast karting center.
For 17 years, Stock Car Steel has been a leading materials supplier to the racing industry. Now they're also an official motorsports content partner of Race Chaser Online. The biggest names in NASCAR trust Stock Car Steel for all their raw materials, such as carbon steel, chrome moly, DOM, aluminum, plastics, and much, much more. You can't build a race car without the basic materials, and Stock Car Steel is the place to get them. Don't forget to also visit Stock Car Steel's sister company, SRI Supplies, for racing and industry. SRI is your #1 source for all your shop supply needs. Nuts, bolts, rivets, tapes, adhesives, cutting tools, chemicals, body shop supplies, paint shop supplies, lubricants, and more. A well-stocked race shop is a winning race shop, and the road to winning begins with 3 letters, SRI. For more information, visit stockcarsteel.com and SRI-supplies.com. You can also find them on Facebook at Stock Car Steel and Aluminum, or call either company toll-free at 1-888-752-7272.
Time now for Open Wheel Central with our resident wine and cheeser, Joe Sebastianelli. Here to pop the cork is Race Chaser Online's managing editor, Jacob Seelman.
Here I am, and here we are with Open Wheel Central as part of Motorsports Madness on the Performance Motorsports Network. There will be a pop quiz at the end of the show, don't worry. But Joel Sebastianelli, we shift from the Formula One side of life to the IndyCar side of life now, because we're 2 weeks out from the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. I'm excited about that. Sage Karam's going to be on the grid. We knew that a couple weeks ago, but one of those other mysterious seats has finally been filled. Stefano Coletti going to pilot the second KV Racing Technology entry for the 2015 season. And surprisingly enough, another number change over there at KV. It's going to be the 4 for 2015 alongside Sebastian Bourdais.
And another team change for Coletti, too. This isn't a guy who tends to stick around the same place very often. Races for different teams every single year. He's been in GP2. Every year he's with a new team. And, you know, with GP2, picked up 7 victories and 15 podiums there, was 5th in 2013 and in 2014, last year with Racing Engineering, which is where Alexander Rossi is racing this year, had 2 victories and finished 6th overall in the standings. So I'm sure he definitely brings a lot of money to KV, but he's a very talented driver. Maybe not a name that Americans know all that well, but Sebastian Bourdais, after their test in NOLA, seemed very impressed with how Coletti drove. Not just the times, but with the feedback he was able to provide to the team. Clearly he's a guy with a lot of experience, and I think that he's going to be a great asset over there alongside Sebastian Bourdais. I'm really excited to see what that pairing can do.
I'm glad you're excited, because I was honestly puzzled, because I was in that boat of guys who had really never heard of Coletti before today's signing, but 8 GP2 wins in 90 starts. I mean, he never won a championship, but he was certainly close a few times, and that kind of a record overseas certainly sets you up quite nicely to come to the States and at least have a respectable showing, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. And he's with a team that obviously is usually pretty competitive in IndyCar. You know, maybe on the ovals, Bourdais and Coletti, there's definitely a learning curve with Coletti especially. I would be very surprised. I can't see any time he would have ever driven on an oval. So it's going to be a new learning experience for him, I think. As far as the team as a whole, remains to be seen whether or not they can compete for race wins. I certainly hope so. I think Sebastian Bourdais, especially on the street circuits, is usually very strong in the IndyCar series. So for KV, of course, the more teams that are involved, the better. But, you know, the aero kits are going to have, I think, a very big role in how this season will play out. We've seen the Chevy aero kit already, but the Honda one going to be coming out pretty soon. KV is with Honda, KV is with Chevy rather, but you know, some of these Honda teams, especially when we get to tracks where it's high speed and where the aero kit may make more of a difference, I'm curious to see how that's going to play into things this year as far as which teams are competitive and which teams struggle and where they struggle.
Oh, I am too, and I'm super excited just because of the fact the cars are going to look different for a change. You'll actually be able to have a little bit more disparity over who's who, and I think that's a little bit of fun for the fans, and it's fun for these drivers and manufacturers to get back to competing against each other and see who can actually make their equipment the best of the best. So it's going to be fun to watch, Joel. And we talk about all this, and supposedly we're going to get it on Twitter here in just a little bit from Honda, but the rumors I've heard and you've heard, this Honda Aero kit could be a little bit wild compared to the look we saw from Chevrolet.
Well, Chevrolet was wild in its own right. It was definitely an interesting design. If you go, a little shameless plug, I suppose, for Honda here, at Honda Racing _HPD, they keep tweeting out different teaser photos of it. So far, we've seen just the top of the car, and we've seen right in front of the Moncock, like a view of the driver's head, and with the rear wing showcased there. So we've seen different renderings here and there. The airbox for sure is still there. We've seen a look at that. As for everything else, there's still a bit of mystery, and they're going to be on social media all day, and it sounds as though at some point tonight is when we will see this new car unveiled. As a matter of fact, about 20 minutes ago, they said, quote, "The wait is almost over. We can't wait to unveil our #HPD Aero Kit tonight. Stay tuned," with the car under a tarp. So we keep getting there a little bit closer, but all of the feedback from the drivers so far seems to indicate that this is going to be a wild look. Ray Hall said it was wild. The drivers seem to really like it. It sounds very different, but different in a good way. I know there was a lot of apprehension about the Chevy design, and I can't say that, at least from the renderings, that I really like the way it looked. That particular model doesn't appeal to me. It just has some weird accessories on it, and it just looks a little strange. Maybe I'll get used to it on track, but I think the feedback so far about Honda has been very positive, but then again, you never know how much of that is a PR job. So we will find out soon enough and be able to form our opinions sometime later on tonight. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, Joel forming an opinion. Oh boy, this will be fun. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. Yeah, or not. Joel, I want to shift back to Formula One now for a second, because one of the teams that we are looking at being on the grid in Australia this weekend, there's still a little bit of question as to who's actually going to be behind the wheel of one of the cars. Guido van der Garde and Sauber have been going at it the last couple of days, and a decision in a major legal dispute between van der Garde and Sauber now deferred to Wednesday. This has just been chaotic. He wants a seat. He feels like he was basically forced out over at Sauber, and now I guess we wait for a decision, but you'd have to think with the decision coming on Wednesday, it's almost too late to get to Australia, even if they rule in his favor, to be able to be on the grid in time for Sunday's race, wouldn't it?
There is no way he would be there by Sunday, because even if they say that Guido van der Garde is in the right here and he should have a seat with Sauber, what are they going to do about the other drivers? I mean, could you imagine the lawsuits that are going to follow for them? Not to mention the fact that they're going to have to fit the seats. And I mean, this is getting really ugly. Just a little backstory here. You may remember him from 2013. He raced the full season with Caterham, and he was the test driver for Sauber in 2014. And he says that in the summer of that year, in 2014, in June, they activated an option to use him as a race driver. Now, later on in November, they gave the seats to Felipe Nasr and Marcus Ericsson. And that's when this all started. So van der Garde has taken them to court, and it's gotten really ugly, too. So far, Sauber saying, and I'm going to quote once again here, Sauber could not allow him to race. It would be reckless and dangerous to do so otherwise. It would result in an unacceptable risk of physical harm or even death, because the car is, I suppose, built for these other drivers, which, I mean, to be completely honest, I don't really get where Sauber's going with this. It seems almost like a divorce dispute in some ways, where it's just resorted to mudslinging on each side. It's better for everybody the sooner this gets done. This needed to be over yesterday, and you really sympathize with Guido van der Garde in some ways, because you feel for him. There's only so many spots in Formula One. The guy's worked his entire life for this, thought he was going to have a good seat at Sauber, and now he doesn't. Presumably because these other drivers could have also brought more money than him, too. You never know the backstory there. So you feel for him, but this has just gotten way out of hand. And I think everybody looking forward to that ruling Wednesday. I just can't imagine the anarchy that will ensue if the court rules in Guido van der Garde's favor. Because then once they do, it's going to open up another slew of problems for Sauber and everyone involved with that team.
Oh, problems on the Formula One grid. Where have I heard that before, Joel? I don't know. By the way, one more thing to note, and I want to really smile about this for a minute, because after all the chaos, all the problems, all the drama that they had after the end of the 2014 season, going into administration, missing the last couple of races, somehow, some way, Marussia, or what was Marussia, now being rebranded as Manor F1, I believe. They're going to be on the grid from everything I've heard in Australia. There's a couple of things that are interesting about this. They're using some 2014 equipment until they can get everything up to specs and approved by the FIA, but people making some special arrangements, and we are at least going to have 20 cars on the grid for the Australian Grand Prix, and that's good for the sport no matter how you cut it.
Yeah, it definitely is. Not everyone's excited about it, and Force India is actually one team that hasn't been a big fan of the proposal, because not just because I think they want the money. They declined that, and I think, yes, they would like some of that money, the £30 million that could have headed their way and been split amongst the teams, but it's also the fact that there are a lot of tentatives here. Nothing really specific has been stated in the proposal. At some point, they want to have a 2015 chassis. We don't really know when. They think summer, after these flyaway races have concluded, is when it sounds like it would be more likely. We also don't know who the driver is going to be. They're pulling a Dale Coyne there. We know Will Stevens is one. Who else is going to jump in? I guess we're going to have to find out at some point this week who the second driver for Manor will be. Having the cars on the grid, I suppose, is good, and it's good for the sport to have 20, but I hope that they can rebound however long it takes and at least become somewhat competitive, because if they're running a 2014 chassis, I don't know how much it really does for the sport, quite frankly.
I don't know. We'll see. But it's cars on the grid, and that's good. Joel, we appreciate it. And, hey, we'll see you next Monday night to actually talk race results, finally.
Let's do it. It's going to be a great week wherever you are and whatever racing you may be watching. Be sure to enjoy it this weekend.
We got more coming up in just a moment. You are listening to Motorsports Madness right here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
How would you like to win a brand new Corvette? Larry O's got all the details.
Enter America's #1 dream car giveaway contest at winyournewcar.com. That's right, winyournewcar.com. Complete the puzzle the fastest and win a new Corvette tax-free, delivered to your door. Come on, stop dreaming and start driving with winyournewcar.com.
We're growing like crazy and need account reps who know their way around agencies, the internet, and social media. Got connections? Or do you know how to get to the decision makers? Are you fearless? We need you. Internet radio, or as we call it, wireless mobile radio, is rapidly becoming the place to be with almost limitless income potential. So contact us to get involved with the fastest growing professionally produced group of internet radio stations in the world. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444. That's 717-749-0444. Or you can email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. You want to ask for Sue.
So you finally arrived at the sweet spot in your life. The kids are raised and gone. You have free time, and it's finally time to do something for you. If you've ever considered owning a Corvette but have been putting it off for years, now is the time to act. Isn't this the time to finally get that Corvette you always wanted and drooled and dreamed over? Well, grab the little lady by the hand and take her to Cooper Corvettes. They're conveniently located on Route 1 just off of I-95 and just north of the Marine Corps base. They have lots of pampered and well-maintained Corvettes in inventory, and if they don't have what you want, they'll find it. From classic Stingrays to modern-day cars, Cooper is your one-stop shop. And speaking of shops, they service what they sell. And even if you didn't buy a Cooper Corvette, they'll service your Corvette anyway. Become part of the Cooper Corvette family. Call them at 703-445-1483. That's 703-445-1483. And on the web at coopercorvettes.com. That's coopercorvettes.com, American pride and countrywide.
You wouldn't trust your taxes to an uncertified accountant. So why trust your vehicle to an uncertified technician? When you have to take your car into the shop, look for the blue and white ASE sign. That ASE blue seal means the shop employs technicians certified by the National Institute for Automotive Service Excellence. ASE certification is proof that technicians have the knowledge and experience to fix your vehicle right the first time. For more information on finding an ASE Blue Seal of Excellence facility, visit the website at www.ase.com.
Hi, this is Carl Edwards here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You want to make a difference? It's simple. Be responsible. Plan ahead. Designate before you celebrate. Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Time to get back to tonight's Motorsports Madness. Here are the only three of a kind that beats a full house. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and Kyle Magda.
And that's a good thing, too, because I know at least Tom and I are fans of the whole poker card game sort of thing. So Absolutely. We know a little something about that. Welcome back to Motorsports Madness, though, a show that has nothing to do with card games at its root. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda here at the round table. Tom, we start the second hour of our show, and I want to revisit the world of fenders just for a moment because, we've talked Las Vegas, we've talked Phoenix, but I actually want to, look a little further ahead to this because we've now started to see a little bit of what this 2015 package is all about. And I know you mentioned it at the top of the show. It's a little bit more competitive in the middle of the pack, but the battle for the lead left something to be desired. With a couple of these intermediate tracks under our belts now, is it too early to start grading this package? Do you like what you've seen so far? Not like what you've seen so far? What are we thinking here?
I don't know. I tend to like what I'm seeing in the sense that I think that we still have the speed that we're accustomed to. I think a lot of people, and really including myself, were wondering if that was going to be the case, though I've never been more impressed with speed than I have been with close competition. I'm always a fan of sacrificing a little speed if it takes that to make for side-by-side racing and a lot of passing. But I just think it may have been the two tracks we've started on so far. They're both 1.5 miles. I mean, you can't really grade Daytona because Daytona's Daytona. It's its own thing. And you're going to have pack racing pretty much no matter what you do. I think Atlanta and Vegas, the two Xfinity races have not been good races at all. Either one of them, really. There's been really no competition for the lead for the most part in either one of them. But again, I'm not sure what you can make of that. The Cup races, Vegas was okay. Atlanta was okay. I think we need to go to the next few tracks. We need to go to Phoenix. We need to go to Fontana. We need to get to, a couple of the short tracks, so then we can start to see where we're at. But I think what may be true is that the reduction in horsepower was almost offset, it seems like, in some ways, by some of the other changes that they've made. And so I think that's why they're still showing the speed that they had. The cars seem to be a little more drivable, but I'm not seeing a lot of passings. Like somebody gets out front and they're gone. Be interesting to see what happens the next couple of weeks. Right now, if I had to grade the first 3 weeks, I'd give it a C on both counts. That's just kind of how I feel about it.
Okay. Interesting. I'll turn to Kyle Magda with a different question. Obviously, we're heading to Phoenix. Kevin Harvick's entered in both races, so we all, I think, kind of have our opinions on that for right now. But looking at the Xfinity Championship battle now for a minute, did anybody expect 3 weeks through the season, Kyle, that we would have some of the names that we've had up towards the top of the standings, your Bubba Wallace's, your Chris Buschers, even even Ty Dillon. I feel like I expected it to be Regan Smith and Chase Elliott, and they've dug themselves quite a mighty hole here through the first couple races of the season. And I know Chase is starting to be on the rebound, but I'm personally kind of shocked with how out to lunch Regan Smith's team has seemed on these two intermediate tracks. It's just not what I saw from them last year at all.
Yeah, not so much at Regan Smith at Las Vegas, but Atlanta for sure. With Chase Elliott, that performance at Las Vegas, that was kind of the team that I know from last year because didn't have the best car. I think might have been close to a lap down the race, and I think he came back from a lucky dog. So, just working his way back up to the top 5 and getting the best finishes possible. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not really surprised Ty Dillon's up there. I mean, he was so good last year, of course, winning at Indianapolis and running up front like Kentucky, dominating that race and didn't pan out in the end. But yeah, I'm not surprised with Chris Buescher either. I mean, he's just slowly working his way up the top, and Atlanta really stood out to me because I think he finished 4th in the race, and he started 18th. He had to work his way up to the front. And kind of like what Tom was saying with the racing, I don't think Atlanta was – I thought Joey Logano had a little better car that race, just the loose wheeler in the end killed him, and trying to get Kevin Harvick in the end. But, I mean, the racing I think has been okay so far. We've had Ryan Reed winning the first race of the season. Daytona's always a crapshoot. That's just how it is. And then Atlanta, you have the Cup guys up front. So it's going to be a really interesting season. I picked Ty Dillon to win the championship this year. Kind of going to go kind of shy away from the junior motorsports drivers, but there's still a lot of season left. We still could see Regan Smith, Chase Elliott really come to their maximum potential and see how the rest of the season will play out.
Okay. Time to completely shift gears. I'm going to snap my fingers. Let's shift gears, Tom, because we go totally away from NASCAR now and to the biggest piece of breaking news in the last 3 hours. How about that? Davey Hamilton is the new I don't know, you call him managing director, executive director, however you want to spin it. Executive director. There we go. I knew you'd be able to back me up on this. Yes. Either way, Davey Hamilton's basically in control of USAC Racing now. Who saw this coming?
Nobody saw it coming. And as I've read into this a little more deeply, when it first came out, I thought that he had taken over from Kevin Miller and that he was the new head man in charge. In fact, I guess they've created another position at USAC, and what's happening is Davey Hamilton is going to head up the racing side of USAC, and Kevin's going to focus more on the marketing and sponsorship and a little bit with sanctioning side. Davey wants to diversify the organization a little bit, bring in some other series. Of course, the first series he brought in was his own, the King of Wings series. So I guess, if you're going to take over the job, the first thing you want to do is take care of yourself. So he took care of himself. Brought in the King of Wings series. And they're looking at, they brought in the Michigan, Auto Value, AVSS, Auto Value Sprint series too. So I like that because I think that USAC, we all need to remember that at one point, Indy cars were under the USAC banner. And so, I like the fact that we're going to try to diversify again. We need to, I think USAC needs that back to become more prominent again in open wheel racing. It had almost become irrelevant in the sense that you had all of these other organizations growing up around it, and it was just one of, I think, not as much not as much the preeminent open wheel series anymore. It just became one of several. So I think that this is going to be a good move. I like some of Davy's ideas, even looking at sanctioning racetracks. All of that I think is a good thing. And, trying to get USAC back out there and stretch its borders a little bit to become more the focus of open wheel racing again, like it used to be. So I think it's a good thing. And Davey certainly has the passion for that part of the sport, as do you and I, of course. So I think it's good.
I'll throw you a bone, Tom, because there's been a couple of people rumoring that this whole deal between Davey and USAC and Davey playing a big part now, and the question started rising, could USAC try to get the sanction back for the Little 500, the 500-lap non-wing sprint car race at Anderson Speedway that usually runs the night before the big race, the Indianapolis 500. So we look at this and go, okay, Davey's a big name in charge now at USAC, a big name in charge. But when the last time USAC had that particular race, car counts went down. People didn't want to come. People weren't happy with the way USAC was running the show, partially because some of these guys that are running the Little 5 now are on such a tight budget, they don't have the money to put out to buy a USAC license just to run that race.
Well, and I think this is where I think USAC has got to sit down and really look at what its positioning is now in relation to the rest of the industry. I can remember back in the mid-70s, if you were running USAC, you were running the IndyCar series. I mean, I remember Bentley Warren was suspended from USAC because he ran a super modified race. Of course, even worse, he did it under an assumed name, and then he got hurt, and they found out about it, and they suspended him. And my thought at that time was, well, Bentley didn't have an IndyCar ride. I mean, and the man needs to race. So I think USAC needs to figure out what it wants to be and how it wants to relate to the rest of the industry as a whole. And I think if they're going to sanction a race like the Little 500, you can't expect people to buy a USAC license just to run that one race. If they're going to compete for USAC points, let them buy the license. Otherwise, let them just show up, run the race, and be done with it. Those are things I think that need to be worked out. And USAC's got to be careful if they do start taking over races like that, not to assume too much importance or they won't get the car count.
Exactly. And there's a lot of things to be talked about here. And USAC, a lot of dirt racing going on there. I'll use that as my segue to say, let's go dirt tracking in just a moment. Steve Ovens going to join us on the line and talk Outlaws and Super Dirt Week up in New York. That's been a big topic of discussion lately. You're listening to Motorsports Madness, and we're back with more in a moment on the Performance Motorsports Network.
How would you like to win a brand new Corvette? Larry O's got all the details.
WinYourNewCar.com. Enter America's #1 dream car giveaway contest at WinYourNewCar.com. Complete the puzzle the fastest and win a new Corvette tax-free. Come on, stop dreaming, start driving with WinYourNewCar.com.
Car problems? You can trust your local Cotman man. Cotman has a 40-year history as a leader in car repair and making happy, satisfied customers. Whatever's wrong with your car, SUV, or truck, Cotman will check it out free using state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment. Don't take chances with your car. Bring it to Cotman and let your local Cotman man show you why they are America's transmission and total auto care experts. Visit Cotman.com to download money-saving coupons. Cotman. Real service, real fast.
You know that phone call is going to come at the worst possible time, right at the end of the game. Fourth quarter, fourth down, and 1 yard to go. They're piling up, but you can't watch that. You got to get that car off the road. This could have been prevented if you have taken advantage of Cotman's free TransCheck 21. Here's a chance to have us look at your car and head off any problems that could happen that could interrupt that game. Again, it's a free check. Come see us.
See Leonard and the fine folks at Cotman of Manassas, 9113 Mathis Avenue in Manassas. Give them a call at 703-365-7200.
Media sales professionals with agency experience. If you're frustrated with your current position, unrealistic quotas, and inept management, if you're a sales machine and you simply will not take no as an acceptable reply, if you're looking for a rapidly growing company with unlimited sales potential for commissions in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you're searching for a high-tech, forward-looking, laid-back, but extremely professional organization who appreciate your skills and dedication. We have your next opportunity. Scorpion Radio Group is building a sales team of self-starters who are motivated. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444 or email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. That's 717-749-0444 and ask for Sue.
Hi, this is Jens Scott from Summit Point Kart in Summit Point, West Virginia. If you're looking for a real racing experience on a real racetrack, come out to Summit Point Kart this weekend. For as little as $25, you can get your racing career started. New this year, Summit Point Kart offers the RX 250, capable of over 75 miles an hour. We're open every Friday from 5 p.m. till 9 p.m., Saturday from noon till 10 p.m., and Sunday from noon till 9 p.m. For more information, go to our website, summitpointkartwithak.com, or you can call us at 304-725-5270. Summit Point Kart, your East Coast karting center.
For 17 years, Stock Car Steel has been a leading materials supplier to the racing industry. Now they're also an official motorsports content partner of Race Chaser Online. The biggest names in NASCAR trust Stock Car Steel for all their raw materials, such as carbon steel, chrome moly, DOM, aluminum, plastics, and much, much more. You can't build a race car without the basic materials, and Stock Car Steel is the place to get them. Don't forget to also visit Stock Car Steel's sister company, SRI Supplies, for racing and industry. SRI is your #1 source for all your shop supply needs. Nuts, bolts, rivets, tapes, adhesives, cutting tools, chemicals, body shop supplies, paint shop supplies, lubricants, and more. A well-stocked race shop is a winning race shop, and the road to winning begins with 3 letters, SRI. For more information, visit stockcarsteel.com and SRI-supplies.com. You can also find them on Facebook at Stock Car Steel and Aluminum, or call either company toll-free at 1-888-752-7272.
Hi, the kids. It's time to get dirty on Speed77 Radio's Motorsports Madness. Here are your hosts, Jacob, Tom, and Kyle, with Turn 5 Live's curator of Casa de Pork Chop, Stephen Ovens.
And making his first appearance from the all-new Casa de Pork Chop Studios, joining us now on the Madness is Dr. Dirt himself, Steve Ovens. Hey, Steve-O, you got a new studio. Does that mean you've got fresh food, too?
Oh, man, we've got it all here at the Casa de Pork Chop Studios. I guess you could say that we took the pork chop off the grill and we laid a fresh one on, and it'll be done in about 10 or 15 here, boys.
All right. Well, Steve, we're glad to have you back on. Tom Baker, Kyle Magda, also here at the round table with us as we're talking motorsports. And Steve, I'm happy to say that the World of Outlaws are making me excited this year. And it's not that they don't every year, but usually by this time, you've got somebody that's been dominant through the first part of the season. But hey, we've had 5 races so far, 3 in Florida, 2 in California, and we've had 5 different winners. This is beautiful.
Yeah, honestly, I love this time of the year with the Outlaws Tour because it really lends us to seeing a lot of parity. And I think that's what we've seen so far. And you've had some good stories, too. I mean, anytime you can you can get a good mix of drivers winning races, that's always a good thing. And you think about the tracks, too. I mean, we've had a good mix so far. We've had some East Coast, Southeast dirt tracks. Now we're headed out west. We're out at Las Vegas. We're out in Arizona. And, like I said, anytime you have parity, it's good for your sport. And honestly, the fields that have come out for the races so far, I mean, you've got outlaw regulars, you've got guys that are going to be following the National Sprint League, and now you've also got West Coast guys that are going to start competing. So it's going to be hard to get yourself locked in. Especially when you take a guy that could come in, qualify a quick lap in time trials, have a great starting spot for the dash and the feature. I mean, it allows some of these West Coast guys that are going to come in, it allows them a chance to come in and get a good starting spot and hey, maybe even pull off a feature win.
Did I mention I can't do math very well, Steve? 6 races and 6 different winners. I completely forgot that show in Tucson on Saturday night, which, oh, by the way, Brian Brown, it took him like 13 years to get his first Outlaws win, and now he's got 2 in the last 4 races he's entered.
I know it. Brownie, this is great for him. I really believe that team is going to carry a ton of momentum and confidence based on getting that win at the World Finals. I mean, you talk about a driver who is just one of the great guys in dirt sprint car racing, and I truly believe that those guys know now that they can go anywhere at any point in time and run well and win races, and he proved that the other night. And to be completely honest with you, if I was anybody that's going to be following the National Sprint League, I would be awfully concerned.
I would be too. Brian Brown going to run that full National Sprint League slate for 2015. And boy, if he's starting his season like this, it's going to be a long year potentially for everybody else. I said the same thing about Harvick in the Cup Series earlier in the show, Steve. But while I'm thinking about it, you mentioned we were in Vegas, in Sin City on Wednesday and Thursday night prior to all the NASCAR action at the paved track, but 2 nights on the dirt track. Can we give a call to Shane Stewart and Terry McCarl? I mean, we know Shane's going to be following the entire Outlaws circuit in 2015, but T-Mac, we don't see him all the time on the tour, and, that's 2 feel-good stories right there. The Larson Marks team getting their first win as a full-time Outlaws touring team, and T-Mac finally going back to victory lane. Both of those put a smile to my face out in Vegas.
Absolutely. I'll start with Shane Stewart. That team there, I mean, they came out and ran a limited schedule and for the most part ran pretty well on that limited schedule last year. But I really believe that there is a very big difference from coming out and running well in some limited races where generally speaking, you're going to pick the tracks that you run well at. But it's a much different thing to set out and come out on the full World of Outlaws tour. But, to do it and come out and get a win early in the season, that's exactly what that team needed. And they're showing us right now that even though they're coming out on the full tour this year and not running just a limited schedule, that they can still get the job done. And, it's not like we didn't think Shane Stewart could do it. It's just, can Shane Stewart do it with a new team? I mean, I'm still going to call them a new team because, like we said, they didn't run a full schedule last year. So I'm still going to call them a new team because they've not been proven out on the road. But winning the other night certainly helps me sway my perception of that team going forward. And then as far as T-Mac, Terry McCarl, great run for him. I mean, I was kind of blown away to see that he won. I mean, he's a very strong competitor at Knoxville. I mean, he was one of the guys that was extremely fun to watch on the TV coverage that they had last year at Knoxville. And I'm looking forward to seeing him run both Knoxville and the National Sprint League this season. So really, the last couple of nights, I mean, you take 2 guys that are going to be duking it out for the National Sprint League title. Boy, that's shaping up to be pretty good. I'm sure Todd Quiring is grinning ear to ear on that deal.
Oh, I would be too if I were the owner. I mean, this is just great for them. So we look at that. Now we take a look at the Outlaws points for just a second, because out of your top 8 guys, all of them are teams that are supposed to be full-time on the Outlaws tour in 2015. They're all separated, Steve, by 46 points. And Joey Saldana, who doesn't have a win in the first 6 races, but has finished in the top 10 in every single one of them, is up on top by 9 points over Brad Sweet. And Donnie Schatz is in 5th. I think this might be the lowest that Donnie Schatz has been in points with the World of Outlaws in like 15 years.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But what I will point out, though, Jacob, is, and this is a cool stat here, the top 5 in points right now are within 19 points of each other. I mean, you take all the way down to David Gravel. David Gravel sits 10th in points right now in the 83 car. He's only 57 points out of the lead, and he has 4 top 10s on the season. So, I mean, it's exciting to watch the beginning of the season because the points are going to change so much as we go forward. But, it's honestly, I'm going to, and I make this comparison a lot, but it just fits so well. Donnie Schatz, you just get that pit in your stomach that I don't care that he's 5th in points right now, because I know when summer comes and the dry slick tracks come, that's exactly when Donnie is gonna turn it on, just like he always does. And it's that same pit in your stomach feeling that I felt on Sunday watching Jimmy Johnson lead and looked like he was going to run away with another race on a 1.5 mile track. And then, of course, they went and, tried to knock the front stretch wall down. But, it's just, it's only a matter of time before Donnie goes and does what Donnie does. But you talked about Joey Saldana. He's a points leader. And, oh, by the way, picked up his first quick time award that we saw him garner in so many last year.
Okay. I want to switch gears for a bit here, Steve. I want to talk about something we were just discussing, USAC, and one of the events that was a part of the USAC schedule with the Silver Crown Series was Super Dirt Week at the New York State Fairgrounds. And lots of stuff going on up there in Syracuse. What is the latest? What can you tell us about the possibility of the grandstand going away to be replaced by an amphitheater, and therefore the potential, and you got about 1 minute, the potential end of Super Dirt Week at Syracuse. Go.
All right. So Reader's Digest here. New York State Fairgrounds holds big events every year. New York State Fair, Super Dirt Week. And essentially what's happening is New York State and Onondaga County, which Syracuse is in, is looking to build an amphitheater across the street, which would replace the grandstands that need quite a bit of repair. I mean, they're safe to be in right now, but they're looking to upgrade that facility. The problem for dirt track fans right now is when they tear those grandstands down, they're also going to tear the 1 mile racetrack up, and that is essentially going to end Super Dirt Week as we know it. The latest right now is the county executive for Onondaga County is not answering anybody's questions. Governor Cuomo, who like him or dislike him, I guess I'll say, he's not answering anybody's questions.
What a surprise.
Dirt Car World Racing Group came out very quickly with a statement saying that Super Dirt Week 2015 is full go. However, they were far and wide away from saying that anything else beyond that is guaranteed. So a lot of dirt track fans very disappointed, it just feels like you got kicked in the gut. You always thought that, there's always been rumblings that Super Dirt Week might be going away, but looks like, possibly this really could be the end after 2015.
Oh, Steve, I wouldn't be so sure about that. If it goes away from the Moody Mile as we know it, I guarantee you that World Racing Group will find somewhere suitable for Super Dirt Week to live on. It may not be as we know it, but I'm far and away convinced that it won't be the end. It just may have a new home for 2016 and beyond. But I know you'll be discussing more of this on Turn 5 Live in the coming weeks. We appreciate you coming on tonight and talking dirt with us for a few minutes. Right now, we're going to do some business and come back with more Motorsports Madness in a moment. You are listening to the show on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Hi, this is Jens Scott from Summit Point Kart in Summit Point, West Virginia. If you're looking for a real racing experience on a real racetrack, come out to Summit Point Kart this weekend. For as little as $25, you can get your racing career started. New this year, Summit Point Kart offers the RX 250 capable of over 75 miles an hour. We're open every Friday from 5 p.m. till 9 p.m., Saturday from noon till 10 p.m., and Sunday from noon till 9 p.m. For more information, go to our website, SummitPointKart.com, or you can call us at 304-725-5270. Summit Point Kart, your East Coast karting center.
In the race of everyday life, it's nice to have the green flag. But drivetrain problems are the pits. A fully remanufactured engine, transmission, or differential from Jasper Engines and Transmissions costs less than a new vehicle and comes with a 3-year, 100,000-mile nationwide transferable warranty. See JasperEngines.com for details and get the green flag in your race of everyday life.
See the boys at Chandler & Sons Automotive, 45977 Old Ox Road in Sterling. Give them a call, 703-437-7300.
Ever hire, never quit. Lofty goals in this age of shoddy quality, corporate indifference, and built-in obsolescence. It's a beacon of light in a crowded field of mediocrity. The way a company is run is an indication of how you, the customer, is going to be treated. You have a lot of choices when you're searching for auto and performance parts online and at the corner parts store. So why should you buy from Excelsior Racing? Because they're simply the best online parts supplier in the business. If you're looking for selection, ease of ordering, cost, and prompt delivery, look no further. If you have a question, our customer service hotline, staffed by knowledgeable gearheads like you, will ensure that you get what you need to fix or mod your car or truck. With 1,000 suppliers, you're guaranteed to get what you need. First time, every time. Excelsior Racing. Excellence on the track. Excellence on the road. Excellence in customer service. Online at ExcelsiorRacing.com or call 502-909-2034.
All I wanted to do was just pick up a guitar and sing praise songs.
From IamSecond.com.
Well, when I got to 17, I was playing in after-hours bars, just in a bunch of trouble.
Grammy Award winner Michael W. Smith.
Smoking that first joint and feeling so guilty about it. From there, it was LSD, and your compass sort of just like disappeared. I knew where I belonged. I just couldn't get out. I was very depressed. I went on the floor and just began to shake. And I was just weeping. I was weeping. And I just began to just cry out for God. 12:30 at night, on the linoleum floor of my kitchen, the God of the universe came and wept with me on that floor. I know where my hope lies. It's not being a rock star. I'm a son of the High King of the universe.
Watch Michael's story at IamSecond.com.
Hi, this is Brandon Jones, driver of the number 33 in the Xfinity Series. Now back to Speed77 Radio's Motorsports Madness on PMN, the Performance Motorsports Network.
And we are back with the madness. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda, and James Pike back with us at the round table now. And it's a good thing, too, because we got some V8 Supercars news to break down. And Pikester, I'll give you two things and put them together and give you an even better thing. Shane Van Gisbergen is a good thing. 888 Race Engineering, a.k.a. Red Bull Racing Australia, is a great thing. Put them together, and what do you get? As you told me the other day, potentially magic.
Well, I don't necessarily know if magic would be the word I'd use, but yes, I'd say that regardless of what happens as far as driver changes goes, when we get to the end of the season in December and January, when you hear all of those sorts of things begin to develop for 2016, usually they will all pale in comparison because we have already received the largest driver change news we're going to get in advance of 2016, because 888 is going to expand for the first time in its history to 3 cars, and Shane Van Gisbergen is going to come over from Techno Autosports to run that third machine. Now, Shane is, personally, I regard him as the best wheelman in the series. His driving style is very much aggressive up on the wheel, and I feel like nobody in the series can do that better than he can, although sometimes you see Jamie Whincup just look smooth as glass and run the show like he normally does, but it's going to be very fun to see that contrast in styles now on the same team with the same level of equipment. And in turn, Jacob, I think we are finally going to get to see just how good Shane Van Gisbergen really is, because he's never really had top-notch level equipment in his career. He's had good equipment, but never great equipment. Now he's with 888. There are no more excuses. He's going to be able to go head-to-head with Jamie Whincup for the title, and it might make anticipation for the 2016 season just a little bit more interesting than we initially expected.
Oh, I think so. Do we consider this on par with the whole Marcos Ambrose is coming home to Australia announcement? Is this how big this really is right now?
To be honest, I think it might be just a little bit bigger, because Marcus hasn't really proven himself, especially in the new Car of the Future chassis. That was introduced in 2013. Marcus ran under the old chassis, which they ran from, I think, 1998 to 2012, somewhere in the neighborhood of. So I think, especially in regards of relevance to the series and potential impact on the championship standings, this is bigger than Marcus returning home. Marcus is definitely the bigger publicity piece, but Shane jumping to 888 will have far more of an impact on who's in the hunt for the title when we get to Homebush in December of next year.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, almost lost in that whole menagerie of announcements was the fact that Craig Lowndes has signed a 2-year extension with 888, and Red Bull, as the entitlement sponsor in some capacity, has signed a multi-year extension as well, James. So Roland Dane was very, very mysterious the other day in some of his comments to V8 Supercars when they asked which racing entitlement contract that 888 was going to use for that third team. He basically said to the effect that that's for us to know and all the rest of you news media types to speculate on. And he wouldn't say whether Red Bull was going to sponsor 2 cars or all 3 cars or how that was going to look yet. So we got a lot of waiting to do to see how this all shakes out before the grid for 2016 is finalized.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. But I think just backtracking a little bit to Craig Lowndes, you really sit down and you think about it. And yes, you might be in a position. I like to think of it something akin to where Will Davison was a few years ago when he made the jump to Erebus. He was previously the number 2 guy at FPR behind Mark Winterbottom. He moved to Erebus to become the number 1. He also hasn't been anywhere near the podium all that much since he left what was Ford Performance Racing, what is now Pro Drive Racing Australia. And yes, Jamie Whincup has statistically consistently beaten Craig Lowndes year over year the past few seasons, but even as a number 2, Craig's spot at 888 is better than pretty much anywhere else in the grid. So maybe he could test the waters and go leave and be the number 1 driver elsewhere. But, I mean, in reality, where is he going to go? Maybe Techno Autosports might be the one spot that could hold a candle to Red Bull. And even then, personally, I don't think that they're as consistent as 888 and Red Bull are. So personally, I think Craig made the right decision in staying, and I think he'll be just as competitive over the next few years as he's been. Maybe even more so because he'll have a little bit of extra fuel to the fire with the New Zealander in his camp as well.
See, now I thought for a minute you were going to say something crazy, like make Lounsey jump ship to HRT or to ProDrive.
I mean, maybe, but you'd have to expand to a third car if he's going to HRT, and unless you're willing to kick out Mark Winterbottom or Chaz Mostert, which I don't think the folks at ProDrive are going to do, then that means you'd have to expand to a third car. So I think in either of those situations, and what maybe and likely will happen with Shane Van Gisbergen, it wouldn't shock me if you saw one of these smaller teams, the Rod Nashes, the Charlie Schwerkoltz, them somewhere down on that end of the podium. I'll bet one of those RECs gets snapped up, and that will be the one that Shane Van Gisbergen uses to run next year. Which team ends up having their REC snapped up by 888, though, is very, very much a mystery and very much something that we will debate and discuss in the coming weeks.
Well, Rod Nash is with ProDrive, Schwerkoltz with Walkinshaw, which is basically HRT. So you have to wonder, I mean, could 888 even do something like we saw Brad Jones Racing do with Brightech Motorsports, so to speak? Could you see them, in a way, almost create their own third team, more or less? Kind of invent an REC that's not currently there, perhaps?
Well, in theory, they could, but that would also mean having to go to V8 Supercars and working out the legal details of that, which, as we found out, I forget who it was last year. It was actually, no, I take the best, Lucas Dumbrell had to go through a myriad of hoops just to get their second car back up for this season with the V8 Supercars. There was almost a gigantic legal mess involved with that, with V8 Supercars saying that they were the owners of it, Lucas Dumbrell saying they never gave it back, and it was all very confusing and very messy, and I would think that it would probably be that way for even 888, just because of the way the V8 Supercars rules written and the way that the organizers like to control that series, especially from a REC standpoint. So,
okay, Tom, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm turning to you to make a V8 Supercars point. You watched Shane Van Gisbergen muscle and root and gouge during the finale for the Clipsal 500 and almost beat James Courtney, and you have to imagine, we call that basically the second tier of great teams in V8 Supercars on the grid. Imagine what that kind of a driving style plus the equipment that Jamie Whincup, who's won 6 championships in 7 years, put 2 and 2 together, and I think James is right. This could make for a titanic battle in 2016. And boy, if Marcus Ambrose can ever get things figured out with Roger Penske over there at DJR Team Penske, it could be downright scary.
Well, I agree with all of that. First of all, I just thought that was an awesome performance. It really reminded me, and I said this to you guys in the chat that we were in during the race the other night or morning, depending on where you are sitting at the time. But I made the point that this reminded me of the old days of Dale Earnhardt and Tim Richmond and Ricky Rudd and Rusty Wallace slam banging each other on the road courses. And I just think that was an amazing performance. But I'll tell you another aspect of this is the domino effect this could start in terms of driver announcements, because you'd have to think that eventually Roger Penske is going to want to go to a 2-car team. Whether or not that's in 16 or 17 remains to be seen. But James, I wonder if this is the start of a real domino effect of sort of a NASCAR silly season round robin that we could see in the V8 supercars this offseason.
Yeah, no, Tom, I think you're bang on with that, because that now that Shane Van Gisbergen is going to Triple Eight, that opens up his seat at Techno Autosports for next year. And there are a host of guys that I think would be in the contention for that. And Techno could go a number of ways with it. I'd think, personally, I'd take a look at Nick Percat, who has proven himself and not the greatest equipment, but kid's got talent. He's a
Paul
coach.
Dumbrell, maybe?
Paul Dumbrell will also be in the mix. He's defending Dunlop Development Series champion. So a lot of names that could get thrown in there. And then whoever moves to Techno, there'll be another seat open in that next car. So, and I'll bet somebody who's probably young and up and coming in the Dunlop Development Series will either get a good seat there or a maybe subpar, somewhat back of the field spot in V8 supercars. But hey, if you're driving in the main game, as they call it, it is still the main game. And that's worth something, Jacob.
Yes, that is absolutely worth something, James. I'll make one real quick point here, but it's something I've been meaning to ask you for about a week now. Are we surprised at how soon this announcement came? I mean, like you said, we don't normally start hearing silly season rumblings until about November, just before the last race of the season at Sydney. Are we shocked at how quickly this came about?
I think the timing is a little bit odd, and in that sense, it's a surprise. But I also think that if Triple Eight decided to announce this announcement at this point in the year, it's not something that's just all of a sudden come together. It indicates to me that it's something that has been in the works for a while, that they have discussed with Shane Van Gisbergen for a long while. Everybody's deliberated on it on both sides. So I think it's a very conscious decision for both parties and a smart one for both parties. And I think it's going to produce a lot of fun when we get to Adelaide next year. Can't believe we're already talking about the 2016 Clipsal 500, but here we are.
I know, right? It's kind of crazy. And in just a moment, when we come back, we'll give a quick shout out to what's coming up this weekend for the V8 Supercars, because, hey, it's Australian Grand Prix weekend, and that means some racing. Right now, we're going to get ready to grab the white flag out of the flag stand and come back for our final segment in just a moment. You are listening to Motorsports Madness live on the Performance Motorsports Network.
How would you like to win a brand new Corvette? Larry O's got all the details.
WinYourNewCar.com. Enter America's #1 dream car giveaway contest at WinYourNewCar.com. Complete the puzzle the fastest and win a new Corvette tax-free. Come on, stop dreaming, start driving with WinYourNewCar.com.
You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right, it's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette. It's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
Hi, this is Jens Scott from Summit Point Kart in Summit Point, West Virginia. If you're looking for a real racing experience on a real racetrack, come out to Summit Point Kart this weekend. For as little as $25, you can get your racing career started. New this year, Summit Point Kart offers the RX 250 capable of over 75 miles an hour. We're open every Friday from 5 p.m. till 9 p.m., Saturday from noon till 10 p.m., and Sunday from noon till 9 p.m. For more information, go to our website, summitpointkartwithak.com, or you can call us at 304-725-5270. Summit Point Kart, your East Coast karting center.
In the race of everyday life, it's nice to have the green flag. But drivetrain problems are the pits. A fully remanufactured engine, transmission, or differential from Jasper Engines and Transmissions costs less than a new vehicle and comes with a 3-year, 100,000-mile nationwide transferable warranty. See JasperEngines.com for details and get the green flag in your race of everyday life.
See the boys at Chandler & Sons Automotive, 45977 Old Ox Road in Sterling. Give them a call, 703-437-7300.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Packers.
Vikings.
Red State.
Blue State.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But no matter how different we are, we're all connected, and we can all make a difference. That's why United Way brings people, expertise, and resources together to improve the education, income, and health of our communities, the building blocks for a better life. When we live united, our efforts, magnified by others, add up to real change. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly, so do our communities. But real change won't happen without you.
Live united.
So let's look beyond our differences.
Live united.
One by one, let's make a difference. Let's reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all.
Live united.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Tommy Barrett, driver of the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. Now back to more race talk from the Speed77 radio crew on the Performance Motorsports Network.
And we are back with our final segment of the evening here on Motorsports Madness. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda, James Pike along for the ride as we get set to close out another 2 hours of race talk. And to do that, the first thing we get to do here in this final segment is make our performance picks for the upcoming Motorsports weekend, at least on the NASCAR side of life. We've got an Xfinity race and a Cup race, boys, this weekend at Phoenix International Raceway, the Jewel in the Desert, as they call it. And guess what? Since our most recent race was the Cup race and Jimmy Johnson basically decided to knock the wall down and kill any chance I had of gaining any points, we go in worst to first order, so that means I have unfortunately earned the right to pick first, and I need points this week really badly because of the full-timers in here. I'm last right now. I don't like being last. You guys know I don't like being last, and since we're at Phoenix, I figure what better to do than pick the guy who's won 10 times, so I'll pick him for both races. Kevin Harvick does the thing that he did back in 2006 and sweeps the Xfinity race and the Cup race. Tom, I don't remember exactly who you had last Monday night, but I know you didn't do a whole lot better than me. Oh, wait, you had Jeff Gordon. You know, that just clicked in my head. You were second worst of us, so you're up.
Well, and I plead Danica on that one. Danica spun in practice, not the game, not the race. Practice, not the race.
Talking about practice,
practice. Man. She spun in practice and took out Jeff Gordon and made him go to a backup car. So I'm pleading Danica on that one. But I'm going to, your 2-inch limbs aren't working very well for you, Jacob, just so you know.
It's got to work eventually.
And I'm also not going to, it would be very easy for me to just say, well, I pick Harvick too. But, I like to have a little more fun than that. So I'm going to deviate slightly, and I say slightly, from Kevin Harvick, but I'm going to stay in the General Hendrick family. And I'm going to pick probably the driver that I would suppose would be the biggest long shot at Phoenix, and I'm not sure about this, but I think if you look up the stats of the Hendrick cars, I'm picking Dale Jr. to win at Phoenix in the Cup race. And the Xfinity race, just for the fun of it, again, because it's too easy to pick Harvick, I'm going to pick Chase Elliott. About time he gets to victory lane this year.
Isn't it, though? It's about time. So Tom has Chase Elliott and Dale Earnhardt Jr. It's still, you're right, in the Hendrick family. All right, you two smug little pickers over there, you both picked Kevin Harvick, and he happened to win and lead the most laps. So tiebreaker means the guy who leads in the overall points, who happens to be Kyle Magda, gets to go last. So James Pike, it's your turn.
Oh, is it now? I'm very much caught in two minds, because you look at the stats for Harvick's last 3 races, 558 of 936 laps led. That's a tick over 59% of the total laps run at Phoenix over the last 3 races. If that does not equal domination, I don't really know what does. And there is one line of thinking that says that's a case where somebody's so dominant that regardless of regular racing picking theory, you have to pick him. But you know what? I don't think I'm going to do that, because there's another guy who happens to be really, really good on flat tracks and also happens to have burned me in Atlanta, but he's much better at flat tracks than he is in Atlanta. So I'm going to go with the 11 and Denny Hamlin to win this weekend in Phoenix. And then for the Xfinity race, almost said the other sponsor, but I caught myself, thank goodness. But at any rate, Kyle Busch did win in Phoenix last year. I forget if he won the fall of the spring race. Satboy can probably correct me on that.
Keselowski broke the string of 3 straight, and Kyle Busch is not in the race this weekend.
I know Kyle Busch isn't in the race this weekend, but I know who is in the race this weekend, and I know who's in that car this weekend, and I know that the guy who's in that car also has a truck victory here and is now making the nationwide appearance. Well, there we go.
There's a buck.
Yep, there it goes. Xfinity experience. So, Eric Jones will be my pick for the Xfinity race on Saturday.
Okay. I'll take that. That's going to be fun. So Eric Jones to turn 2 truck wins into an Xfinity win. Okay, Kyle Magda, you're spoiling everybody's party. You're leading the points. I guess it's on you.
Yeah, I guess it is. Just thinking about these picks here, y'all are picking good drivers. For the Cup race, of course, Kevin Harvick's the one, the expected driver to go out, lead the most laps to win. But I've been kicking this pick around. I've been down to 2 drivers, and I'm going to take this guy. Hasn't had the best start to the season, but it wasn't for Ryan Newman putting Kyle Larson on the last lap. I think this guy had a good chance of winning the championship. So why not take Big Daddy Jeff Gordon to win on Sunday for the Cup race? He finished in second here in the fall. Don't know. Like I said, just couldn't catch up with Kevin Harvick, but still, Jeff Gordon, looking for somewhat of a good run, because those 2 bad finishes he had in 1996, he won the 3rd week at Richmond. So maybe those bad finishes will turn into a win this week. And for Xfinity, you guys bring up some good drivers. Kevin Harvick again running that. But one speaking of teams that has not won this year in Xfinity Series, has been the 22 team. Keselowski getting passed on the last lap at Daytona, Joey Logano falling short in Atlanta, and then Ryan Blaney at Vegas. So you know what? Why not pick the 22 car? Joey Logano wins on Saturday, and that 22 team finally gets their first win for the defending owner champions.
I know, it's hard to believe we're almost 4 races into the season and that 22 car hasn't won a race yet. It's bizarre, but that would be 2 in a row for the 22 team at Phoenix, Kyle, because Brad did win this race in the fall. So Kyle Busch not infallible, and I'm waiting for the day that Kyle Busch gets back to this whole NASCAR deal and is healed up and ready to go. Tom, wouldn't it just be fitting for one of the greatest wheelmen, in my opinion, in the history of NASCAR's top 3 series to go out and decide, hey, I'm healed up, and he ends up winning his first race back? I know it's still a little ways off yet, a couple of months, but I'm already ready I'm already ready for Kyle to be back. I miss the whole crazy aggression on these race weekends.
Well, honestly, I think Kyle Busch could probably hop in the car right now with all the casts and everything else, and go out and run fast at Phoenix. But yeah, I think we're looking at 3 to 4 months if we're lucky for Kyle. I would not expect to see him back until the last probably 8, maybe, if that, races of the season. He might make it back for the chase. I think that's probably optimistic, but it's a shame that happened to him. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, is I've always believed that Kyle Busch is the most polarizing driver since Dale Earnhardt when it comes to, on track. Whether you like him or you hate him, you pay attention to him. And, I really think that that's a loss. I mean, no offense to David Reagan or anyone else they would have put in that car, but we're missing Kyle Busch right now because he adds a level of excitement to any race that just isn't there when he's not in it. So we certainly do wish him a speedy recovery for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And, David Reagan has shown flashes of brilliance in that 18 car. He was really good in practice a couple of times in Vegas. He was decent in qualifying, and just it seemed like that car fell off late in the race. And, of course, nobody had the same speed that the 4 car did. But I think that team, if they get a few more races to gel, they could maybe have something here a little bit later in the season. I'm not saying that it's not possible, so we'll just wait and see on that one. Going to be interesting to watch that team, I think. But Tom, as we get down here close to the very end of our time on this Monday night, we've definitely covered a lot of ground. And, real quick, just want to give a shout out to another fantastic race over the course of this weekend. Ryan Dungey finally got it done at Daytona in a Supercross race.
Yes.
He's only been running there like 6 times and hasn't been able to do. Yeah. It seems like 2009. I can't get over him winning the championship in his rookie year and it only being 6 years ago. But Ryan Villapoto owned Daytona the last 5 years, and Dungey finally gets him one. Well,
and honestly, the question I have is, I've been trying to wrestle with this, and feel free to weigh in. Where does this rank among the great Daytona Supercross performances? Because he just flat out dominated. Once he got out front, it was going, gone, goodbye.
Yes, it was goodbye, and he was fantastic there over the final 10 laps. I mean, this was a performance where a driver knew what he wanted, and he absolutely went out and get it. When he got by Andrew Short, there was nothing that anybody was going to do to keep Ryan Dungey from getting that big trophy in Daytona. So a shout-out to him, and a shout-out to the guy who has won 4 of those Daytona Supercrosses in the past, Tom. Ryan Villapoto overseas gets his first overall win in the World Motocross Championship just 2 races in. Everybody was down on him, saying there's no way this guy's going to come over here against the best of the best and win a championship or even be in contention. I hate to tell you guys, and maybe I'm biased because he's a Stars and Stripes boy, Ryan Villapoto is one of the best, and I'm excited that he's finally got a win, because I would love to see him stomp all over the foreigners' hopes and dreams and bring that World Motocross trophy back to the good old US of A.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely think he's capable of it too. We were talking about this over the weekend. What a hole it is that he's left. Just not seeing him in Supercross, but it really is great for him to be competing at that level, and I believe he's got a shot to win the championship. And I just think if he's not the greatest of all time, he certainly is one of the greatest of all time. And it is, it is hard to not watch him race here in Supercross, because he was always so much fun to watch.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed. And hey, James, we got racing to watch on your end this weekend too. V8 Supercars at the Australian Grand Prix. 4 100-kilometer races. I know they're short bursts, but it's still racing nevertheless.
Yeah, I think Joel and I are going to get to buddy-buddy because we're both going to have our eyes on Albert Park this weekend. But yeah, always a fun one, even though this is the lone race of the season that is an exhibition race. They don't run for points at the AGP, but still a very, very fun and entertaining show nevertheless.
I'm tempted to be mean to Magda and leave him out here. No, I won't do that. I'm just irritated because he's still winning, Magda. You need to go and not win this weekend so the rest of us can get unmad at you.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Kevin Harvick keeps up what he's doing. I mean, you'll probably be happy. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. And, with the West Coast swing happening right now, 2 more weeks, and then we head back east to Martinsville.
It's going to be fun. Right now, checkered flag on this edition of The Madness. So for Tom, James, Kyle, the whole rest of our crew, and Bob behind the glass, I'm Jacob Seelman. Race fans, keep it off the wall until we meet again. And hey, if you're lucky and head to a racetrack this weekend, we just might see you there. Have a safe racing weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next Monday right here on the Performance Motorsports Network. Good night.
You've been listening to Motorsports Madness with the Speed77 Radio Race Chaser Online crew. Stay tuned to Performance Motorsports Network for more race talk. For the latest motorsports news, visit racechaseronline.com. Motorsports Madness is a copyrighted production of the Performance Motorsports Network. www.performancemotorsportsnetwork.com. A member of the Scorpion Radio Group, Inc., and may not be rebroadcast, replicated, or saved in any media without the explicit written permission of PMN. Check out our Facebook page or our section on the PMN website. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host, co-host, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of the management and ownership of either the Performance Motorsports Network or Scorpion Radio Group Incorporated, the advertisers, or the marketing partners. Be listening again next week when the madness returns on Monday night at 7 Eastern. Until then, keep it off the wall and keep the shiny side up.